G'day, name's Bruce. I don't know why people find that funny. It's a hard act to follow Peter Garrett, but Oyster Harbour catchment. So we're going back up again. Yeah, well, if you head down south or southeast, you keep going till you drive into the ocean and then turn around and look back. There's Oyster Harbour catchment. Traditional owners are the Noongar Menang people. And let's see if this works. Okay, right. So you've got the Stirling Ranges in the north, Mount Barker there, the Parongarups, and you've got the Calgon and King Rivers going down to Oyster Harbour in the south. There's an imaginary line somewhere through here. I didn't put it up there because, well, it's the 600mm rainfall isohyet. So Oyster Harbour catchment for the REI project is a bit different in that it's not the whole of the catchment, it's the high rainfall zone. The funny thing is, with the seasons that we've had, the last few years it's probably been down here, and this year it's right up here. So that's quite interesting. But I guess the important thing is that that the REI has made a focus on the high rainfall zone, and it's increased the uptake of activities in that area, because a lot of earlier work has been in the upper catchment, and part of that is because salinity stimulated a lot of community land care work in the 80s and the 90s. So Oyster Harbour, it's a big valuable asset, and recent data is looking pretty good. The seagrass is recovering nicely, so you can see it from a low here. Now we're back up, and I think we're back up to above the levels of the 60s, so that's really good. Phosphorus loads are decreasing. However, Catherine Thompson did say to me, we haven't had that really big wet year or that really big event, so we'll have to see what happened. Well, guess what we've got this year, so it'll be interesting to see what the monitoring shows over the next 12 months. And I guess the other important thing is with that good water quality, there's now a huge development of a large aquaculture industry expanding, and in fact it's bigger. It's going to take up more of the harbour than that regional estuaries initiative thing, so it is a big development. So we hope that the proponents have a high standard of environmental management to continue to look after the harbour. The soil testing I sort of see as one of the backbones of the REI project, and I just think it's a really good package that's been developed by DPIRD, based on scientific evidence and continually refined, and it makes it a good package to sell to farmers. So that's just an example of the maps that a farmer might get, and just at a quick look you can see this is quite a common thing in the catchment. So we've got high phosphorus levels, low pH, and a variation with potassium and sulphur. So that might mean, there might need to be some changes to the types of fertilisers and rates that are applied. But it's not just soil testing. Well, for a start, there is a move to do self-soil testing, which I think is really good for getting landholders more involved so they have more ownership. But there's the backup of the agronomic advice, the tissue testing, and then there's also the uptake project, which Dave Rogers will talk about, which is really helping to back up the evidence and the recommendations that come through the program. We were lucky enough when Russell Nicol came over to do the AccuSpread trial. Because of COVID, he got stuck in the Oyster Harbour catchment. So we made the most of it and got him to go around and do as many machines as he could. And just basically, that's one machine before and after being modified. So the farmer was hoping to spread around 20 to 25 metres. The machine was accurate to about 7, so he went home not very happy. But then Russell didn't give up, came back on the weekend and modified it so it was accurate up to 27 metres. So there is a lot of these older machines around, but they can be improved, and or at least if the farmers know what they can spread at, that's a good thing. But what we really need is we need more resources to be able to do this locally, testing kits and that sort of thing, because we're relying on expertise from over east. I'm sure Deb will talk about that a bit more. Oh yeah, and it was pretty severely attacked, this machine, basically cut off all the bits that offended him. So I really like the dual aspects of the REI project, with both sustainable agriculture and the moving water in the landscape. It basically, you go on to a farmer you may not have done any work with before, hadn't been involved with the catchment group, might have even been a bit suspicious, and you say, well, let's just start talking about this soil testing. And they like that because it's production related. And then you're going through the map, and it ends up there's this creek line or there's this paddock that's not that productive, and through that you end up picking up sites to do rehabilitation and fencing the stock off. So I think that dual component works really well. It was a bit of a highlight working with the local Noongar Ranger group, doing revegetation and a bit of fencing as well. We also did a bit of direct seeding in the northern parts of the project area, which became quite cost effective. But you need to have suitable soil types and the right machinery. It is a bit more risky, but when it works, it's really cost effective compared to seedlings. If you're putting 4,000 seedlings in per hectare and you're doing 20 hectares, you've got to buy 4,000 seedlings for every hectare at 70 cents, where the direct seeding, the cost of the seed is less, and when you start using machinery for the bigger sites, it starts becoming a lot more cost effective. However, further south, where there's a lot stronger weed competition, we still did find that the seedlings was a bit more reliable, so it's sort of a safe method as well. And I guess the other thing with both the direct seeding and the seedlings was the importance of follow-up weed control. You want to get the weed control as good as you can, first of all, but don't give up on it after you've planted or seeded. And we found that with the use of a few different selective herbicides, or even a mix of selective herbicides, we could really knock down that competition in the spring and be the difference from seedlings not surviving to being, this tall after 12 months. So it is good when you can go back to your re-veg sites and the trees are taller than you are. For Jan, yes, I did have to put the tractor in. So normally when a farmer, if you're working with them and they lend you a tractor, it's usually an old Fordson that they use as the post hole digger. But this guy, when I turned up, he handed over the 300 horsepower fast track. So that was my day, king for a day I was. How am I going for time? Time's up. Okay. So just quickly to wind up, the other impacts of the REI is collaboration with Gate to Plate. So we presented at their field days, but they also promoted our events. It kept the catchment group going, and we've now got a Southern Beef Grower Group developing, and that's moving along nicely, and we're getting good attendance at a regular number of field days. So when we come along to have like an uptake field day, we've already got a group of growers that are regularly going to different events throughout the year. And just quickly, that's a map that we've developed onto a whiteboard, which is using the paddock maps for further farm planning. and watch this video, because obviously I don't have time to show it now. So just look up on our website, there's just a little 3-minute video about restoring the harbour. Thank you.